If you're a golfer who struggles with compressing your irons and releasing the club too early, then this video is for you. Often amateur golfers really struggle with compressing and striking their irons in the way that the pros do. We often see and hear of the complaint of the club early releasing too much, which can cause fat and thin shots. There's no compression on the ball, so the ball can then often pop up, overspin, and there's no distance and full carry. Players are looking for more of kind of this motion into the ball rather than this motion. Now, one of the main causes of this biomechanically is golfers don't actually recenter their body correctly in the backswing, which causes then the sequence to get out, and as in the downswing, the body has to stop turning and pivoting, and then the club head has to overtake the hands. And this is where we see that type of motion, which is often referred to as early release. Now, in this video, I'm going to talk about how we can really recenter properly, what drills we can do to create that, and then how we want to obviously drill that in in a practice sense and the type of ball flight we want to see. So utilizing my Smart to Move force plates, what you can see is where the pressure is in each individual foot. Now, those golfers who really struggle to recenter the pelvis, which in this visual on the force plates will be the yellow line, is they essentially in the backswing, and this can be down to perception as much as the ability to move. The perception is we need to load into our trail side and keep loading all the way into the top of the backswing. Now, what this means is by the time we're at the top of the backswing, too much pressure is on the trail foot. And obviously from a sequencing perspective, because those hands and the club head will always move faster than the lower body, there's not enough time for the lower body to get into the lead side, to create that lateral shift, to create the vertical, the rotation. So naturally the pivot has to stall and then the club head has to overtake the hands, and that's where we get that early release. So when I'm looking at this, we might see that that pressure is too far to the right for too long, and the pressure point is too far on the outside of the trail foot, essentially creating too much of a shift or a sway. Some golfers then do the opposite to limit that and stay very centered and don't turn, and that actually can create the exact same issue. So players almost get rid of their sway in the hope of actually hitting the ball better, but this can cause the exact same problem just visually in a very different way. So what we're going to look at today is a really clear drill on how we can get that yellow dot, as you can see there, top of the backswing has started to recenter, and where we can feel that and what we can do to improve that. So the tool I recommend using is something called a yoga wedge. So really simple and cheap, inexpensive tool where all you're going to do is essentially place your trail foot on the side of it. Now, because your right foot is naturally going to be slightly higher and angled almost towards the target, this with the correct perception, we can then create the right feeling of how we're going to shift, recenter and push into the lead side in the correct way. So as I'm turning back, let's call this mid backswing, so roughly when the lead arm is going to be parallel to the ground, we should be able to feel plenty of pressure, plenty of push, plenty of set into that trail foot. But as we go to the top, because now we're sort of angled, this right foot, in my case, the trail foot, is now ready to push. So we're using this platform as a pushing motion in order to create that lateral shift, that pressure shift into lead side. So if I just do this with my right hand only, you can see there it's too late. So I'm going to feel, before I get to the top of the backswing, I want to feel like I'm pushing off the right side and almost exaggerating the push into the lead side. Now, you might look at this and think there's too much lateral or slide or movement to the target. And in many ways, that was what we're trying to create, because we have to feel that movement off the yoga wedge to create that lateral shift. Now, if I put both arms in and do that again, what we should start to be feeling and getting an awareness of, if we go back to that force plate, that yellow dot, which is my center of pressure, is that we want that center of pressure feeling, remember, like it's going back to the middle, which should feel like it actually has to go quite far left. Because if we're moving to the right all the way in the backswing, we're done. It's too late. So remember, feeling of recenter. Now look how that wedge just slided there for me, and that's ground force, and that's what we should expect. Is if we're doing it properly, because I'm pushing, so I'm technically pushing in that direction, creating an opposing force that's going to push me in this direction, okay? So if you're doing that right, don't be afraid if the wedge slides away from you. Now, we're going to attempt to hit some balls like this, but obviously because we're creating a lot of force, this could naturally slide too excessively, so we might need to do it a little bit slower just to get the feeling. Let's give that a feel. Good. So from there, I could straight away, it might start to go left, but that's me getting compression. Because if I'm turning here, now we're into lead side, and providing we rotate and turn, rotate and push, naturally we're going to get more compression because that club's going to be driving in. So when we actually practice this move, what you should be focused on with ball flight is it being much lower and maybe borderline feeling like the movement is a bit like more of like a punch shot. So very much kind of that cut off follow through. So I'm going to try that again. And again, we can see from a feel perspective, there's a lot more compression on there. It going a little bit left is obviously because I'm exaggerated in this position and shutting it down. And there I kind of squared that up and really got that movement. So now we're going to take the yoga wedge away and see if we can create that same feel. So now we're level, we don't have that place, but what if we just try and create that same feel? Again, you see how I'm centered pelvis is really moving and we're going left. So we're going to see if we can piece that together, keep it a little bit slower. And don't be afraid to feel like you're in your lead side very early in the top of the backswing, because that is actually recentered. It just might feel very foreign initially because most of you will be used to being over here and then trying to get out of the way, or never getting either or and just being really static and trying to utilize rotation only. And not many golfers can do that effectively, certainly not with any form of compression on the ball. So by using a simple tool with a yoga wedge, you can very easily get the feeling of what recentered looks like and feels like, and we can start to then feel and create more compression on the golf ball. If you've seen my other videos and you start to understand those ground reaction forces, remember the left and right, the up and down, the forwards and backwards, which is the rotational force. If you're someone who struggles in any one of those, this is going to be very much a lateral side-to-side force, then you can check out my golf performance app here that has loads more drills around those different forces.